Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Leader Tree, where leadership grows, where strong roots build stronger skills, and where today we're talking about taking risks. Because leaders don't play it safe. Right? We don't play it safe. We're the guys that run in there and make a plan when everybody else is saying it can't be done. Right? We're the guys or gals that run up there and say, hold on now. We might have to get a little risky, but this is accomplishable. This is doable. Leaders understand that you got to put yourself out there. Nobody gets anywhere in life playing it safe, right? That's just the way life goes. So, ask yourself a question. When's the last time you took a risk? When's the last time you took a risk? What were the results of that risk that you took? Did it work out the way you thought it would? Did you have to pivot? Did you have to figure out something along the way? Did it go exactly as planned? It might have. My favorite quote of all time was by Dwight Eisenhower, who at the time he wasn't a president yet. He was just a general. Just a general. Okay. They're talking about promoting Washington so that he didn't get outranked by Eisenhower. He's just a general. But at the time he wasn't president yet. And he said this quote to somebody. He said, "In preparing for battle, I have always found that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable." This is a guy that understands. You have to take risks. You have to move out there. You have to put yourself forward in order to get where you want to go. But you got to do it smart too, right? Planning is indispensable. The plan is not going to work the way you planned it, right? It's just not. Something's going to happen. Here's a perfect example of my own life. So I got this challenge. It's starting on the 8th, right? It's coming up this Thursday. So if you want to be part of the challenge, go to unchainedchallenge.com and you can sign up right there. You'll be helping me with my goal, which is to raise some money to deliver meals to the needy. I want to deliver 1,000 meals. So, I think it's a good cause, and I wanted to do something to be part of that, and this is what I came up with. So I got this challenge coming up, right? And I planned everything out. Everything was working, and I double-checked all the links to make sure everything worked, through the whole flow from start to finish. When someone does this, this will happen, and so on and so forth. And I double-checked it and I triple-checked it. And then I started putting out emails to people and things like that to start letting people know about it, because I want to raise this money. I want to get these meals out to these people because they need it, And I don't know what happened, but along the way something broke in the website. And people are sending me messages saying this just says there's no page there. There's no page there. And I was like, what's going on? And I look it up and everything is suddenly destroyed. Everything is, none of the links are working right. Things are going places that don't exist. I'm like, what in the world is happening here? So I spent my entire day that day basically crashing the whole thing down and starting over, and with different software that would work, more reliable, that I thought was working fine, turned out not to be. And that's exactly what Eisenhower's point is, isn't it? Because plans change on the fly. You might think you know what this dude over here is going to do, but he might surprise you and do something completely different, and you have to have a plan for what to do in that case. So planning is indispensable, is what he's saying, And a fly might show up in your ointment What are you going to do? You're just going to crush them up in there and add it to the ointment? Maybe, if that's part of your plan. But the point is to have a plan, to know what to do, not to freak out, not to flip yourself out, move forward till you get to where you want to go. Now, in the situation that I'm talking about, it literally took me, all day to fix that particular situation. Because these were plug-in crashes on my website that you don't normally have to deal with. And there was a lot of information that had to be transferred to a new program. So it took me a long time. But I knew what to do. I didn't panic about it. Now, it was a little upsetting because I had sent a lot of people over there. And, there was a lot of traffic that I was basically wasted that could have gone to help somebody, But that's okay, because that's part of the process of taking risks, right? And that's what we do, We want to accomplish something, we take a risk to get there, When I was in the military many, many years ago, we went to help rebuild a school for children in the area out in Iraq. And we had a piece of equipment that had been with us since the 40s, and it didn't function at all. And we took the risk on it. We're like, okay, let's see if we can make this thing work again. It's just basic mechanics. If you can't find a part, you make a part and you put it back together and you see what happens. And, it was a gamble, right? But it was for these kids to have a school and needed to be cleaned up, and we needed to do it. And we took the risk on it, and we got that thing working, Our team spent many, many hours tearing this thing down, rebuilding it from scratch, fabricating things to make it happen, putting it back in operation, And that's the risk you take. And then we took it out there, and no matter what we did, we had like 4 of us out there trying to figure it out, and it just decided it wasn't going to start again. And we couldn't get it to start. We were doing everything. We were pouring gas on it, trying to get a spark going. We could not get this thing to start. So the plan doesn't always work, Sometimes it doesn't happen. But we had a secondary plan, We went out there and we scrubbed things down, and you got your mission accomplished. It just didn't get accomplished the way you planned it, So, but that's what you live through as you're going through your life, isn't it? Right? Problems. See, problems are there to strengthen us. Problems are there to show us that we're capable to overcome them. I believe that God has a purpose for all of us. And I believe that God will throw problems at you, especially when you don't need any more problems, right? And I think the reason for that is because He wants you to understand that you can overcome things, right? One of the neatest things that I think there are as being a human being on this planet is that every time we find a way to say, this cannot be done, somebody finds a way not too long thereafter to say, I just did it. All right, let's take buildings, for example, right? Somebody said you can't build a building more than 1 story tall. And somebody found a way to build a story on top of another story. And somebody said, okay, but you can't build a building higher than this distance, right? And then somebody said, okay, but what if I put a spire on top of it? Now I'm higher than that distance, right? You got the Sears Tower, for example, Empire State, another one. So these things are. And then somebody said, hey, you know what? you can keep building forever. You know, you got a guy who figured out how to build it much higher than that. When everybody said you can't do it because it'll topple itself over, right? Then they said, buildings have to be a straight up box. Has to be a straight up box. This dude said, you know what? I'm going to curve my building while it's going up. And it makes like a little twisty thing. Then you got another guy who said, you know what? I'm going to put a hole in the middle of my building and make it, and just, have it like on tiers in the middle of it and keep on going up for another mile or whatever. You know what I mean? These things happen all because people don't take these problems at face value. They're leaders, right? They're moving forward, right? They take the risk. They move forward. They take the plunge forward and they say, I will not be stopped. That's leadership. And then you take somebody and you bring them along with that plan. And now you're a leader. Everybody has the innate ability to be a leader. But they don't always have people to lead, right? You've got to have people that want to follow you down that path. And sometimes that can be difficult to find as well. But you got to take a risk in order to find that. You got to take a risk in order to put yourself out there. Because let me tell you something, folks. If you are not telling anybody you exist, who's going to follow you? One of the things that this challenge is going to do is it's going to let other people know that don't know about me, for example. It's going to know that I exist. And if you're tuning in to the podcast for the first time, and this is your first time here listening to the Leader Tree, then this is the first time you're getting to know I exist, maybe. Maybe somebody let you know, hey, check out the Leader Tree. It's a fun little podcast. We talk about leaders and leadership. And we celebrate who we are. Right? Because we should celebrate who we are. Who we are is special. Who we are is unique. Do you know that out of all of the people in the world, all of the many, many people in the world, only about 15% of us have our skill sets? I mean, you're an elite group, and you don't even realize it sometimes because you're in in today's connected world, it seems like everybody is a leader. Everybody, and reality is no. The reality is no, not everybody is. You're actually a very elite group, and you don't realize it because there's so much of it out there. There's so many. I mean, let's just look at it from this perspective, okay? You're a leader, right? You're a leader, and you do leadership things every day, right? Maybe you're putting a post out. Maybe you're making a comment to somebody else. Maybe you're doing something online. Maybe you're doing this. Maybe you're doing that, right? But you're putting information out all the time. So you're one person. You're one leader. And out of 365 days in 1 year, you're probably putting out 2 or 3 things a day sometimes, right? Now you multiply that by a whole lot of leaders, right? That's an unbelievable amount of information flooding the internet. But believe it or not, you are in a select group of a very small percentage of the population. You're just making the louder volume. And I know that might flip your mind right now. You'd be like, whoa. But it is a fact. It's a fact, Jack. That's what I like to say. It's a fact, Jack. Leaders are in short supply. That's why we get paid so much. Right? Your average worker in the United States, I guess we made them up to $15 an hour right now. But look, when I started, Minimum wage was $4.25, right? I always assumed it was going to stay at $4.25. Never even realized. I mean, later on in life, somebody asked me what's minimum wage, and I said, I don't know. $4.25, I guess. You know, I've never worked for minimum wage, so I have no idea. I never paid attention to those things. But it turned out it wasn't $4.25 because I looked it up and it was like $7. So it had gone up quite a bit. But still, I mean, I couldn't imagine living off of $7 an hour. Even then, you know, that was a number of years ago at this point. But so many people in this country do, right? In the United States. So many people have lived on so little for so long, and they're okay with it. A lot of them are even happy that they got that money, right? They're like, oh, thank God, $7 an hour, I'm rich, you know? I couldn't imagine trying to do it, right? If I'm not making, I don't know, at least, I would say in order just to get by and do the things that I do as a leader, and, you know, because I'm always out there taking risks, I'm always trying new things, I'm always expanding, you know, I would need a minimum, I would think, of probably, you know, $25 an hour at a minimum. Because I work a lot of hours, so I guess that can be low. But, I mean, if you think about yourself, could you do it? When you think about all of the things that you do, could you survive off of $7 an hour? Hell, could you survive off of 15, which is what they just raised the minimum wage up to? I couldn't do it. You know, my son and I were actually having a conversation about a person's life being valued at $10 million over the course of a life. We were having this discussion, oddly enough, last night, which was Easter Sunday. And we're like, why are we even having this discussion, right? But it's the way, it just, you know, things pop up when you're having conversations. So, he and I are having this conversation, and he's like, well, you know, I think for insurance purposes, they pay based on what a person's life is worth. Because I was saying, well, you know, if we were talking about something about a hospital, and I said, well, you know, if the hospital kills you, then you don't have to pay the bill, right? They owe you money. And he said, oh, that's right. And I said, you know, so, I said, but, you know, then they have to think about not only how much were you worth at that time, right? But what were your plans for the next however many years, right? You know, what could you have done in those years? They got to pay you for that too, right? Because they cut your life tragically short. They got to pay your family for that too. And so we looked it up, and the insurance companies value a human life at $10 million here in the United States. That's from the time you're born till the average death time of about 78 years, right? Which is also a good improvement, because when I started out in the world, the average person only lived 70 years. So we've added 8 years to our lives. That's pretty good. That doesn't mean you're going to last that long. None of us know our expiration date, unfortunately. So be prepared, right? Planning is indispensable, as the general would say. So we're looking it up, and I was like, okay, well, let's reverse engineer that and figure out what that is. It comes out to, if you worked every day of your life from the moment you were born, it comes out to about $38 an hour. So ask yourself this question. $38 an hour. Does that sound like a fair dollar amount for your life? I'm curious. Leave it in a comment. Let us know. Now, if you're not following this podcast on theleadertree.com, you should go ahead and do that. And you can leave a comment right there on this post. Maybe you're finding it through Facebook. Maybe you're finding it through TW3 Radio, right? But over at theleadertree.com, you can find every episode of all of our podcasts, and you can leave a comment right there and let us know the answer to that question. Would $38 be enough for you per hour? You know, how does that compare with where you're at now? Because in modern society, right, we are trained to live with less, right? We're literally trained. Corporate America has got together and they said, hey, we can convince these people, we can train these people to go ahead and live with less so that we have more. You know, look at the banking world for a moment. Okay. Now, when I was growing up, we could get a savings account that would pay us 7% interest per month on our savings. Right? Even if you didn't invest any of your own money in stocks and bonds and mutual funds and all of those things, right? Even if you didn't do that and you just put your money in a savings account, you knew you were going to make 7%. That's a pretty good deal. Money could grow. And they would tell you about it in school. They would say, oh, look, if you put $100 in here and you just leave it there in in about 10, 15 years, you'll have, you know what I mean? And they would do that. You guys remember that? Anybody remember that? It was actually an assignment in math class to learn these things, right? You're learning about it. But then what happened? The housing market crashed, right? I think it was a housing market crash. I don't know. Something happened. Anyway, it was a long time ago now. And all of the interest rates were turned off. Nobody's making any interest, right? And for a long time, and we accepted it, right? Everybody accepted it because, okay, the country is in a depression. Obviously, we're not paying everybody interest, right? We need the money. We made a big comeback from that. We made some things happen. And it's like, okay, when is my interest coming back? And then they finally say, okay, we're going to open up interest. Okay, great. Right? And what do they open it up at? Like half of 1%, right? Not even half. I think it was like an eighth of 1%. He's like, okay, that's nothing. And then it moved up. Today it's like half of 1%. Why is that? Is it because they don't have the money? No, we make more money in this country now than we ever have. We got more money floating around than we know what to do with. We got so much of it floating around, we're giving it out like candy all the time to people. Right? I mean, you can call it what you want. It's COVID relief, yada, yada, yada. It's the fact that when we put it back out there, more happens. Right? It's the new business model. Does it help people? Yeah. But who's it helping? It's helping companies. It's helping big corporations. It's helping Goldman Sachs, right? These cats know what they're doing. Right? Because you're not keeping it. You're spending it. Right? And what are you spending it on most of the time? Bills. You're not going out there and living or anything. You're spending it to survive. You're spending it to pay some big corporation who doesn't need your money anyway. That's what you're spending this tax rebate on, that you're spending a fortune to have. So who's the rebate for, right? Anyway, I'll let you ponder that on your own. But here's the neat thing. When you think it through and you understand what they're doing, right? What they're doing is training you. Because we got more money than we know what to do with. And our interest rates never came back, did they? They never give you any money on an interest rate. Why would they? They've got you trained now to be okay with it. They've got you trained now to say, I'm not expecting anything on my savings account except what I put into it. They're making more money because they're not giving it out to you and me. So why would they change that? Now, as you put more money in a bank, right? As you grow, they'll give you a little bit more. But it's not a lot. It's not ever going to be anywhere near where it was, right? And depending on the type of account you have, you can get more, right? But again, even that is a fraction of what it once was. Because they've got you used to not having it. And when you're used to not having it, then they don't have to offer it. And they know that. Let's talk about the credit cards since we're on this subject. Credit cards, bank cards, things like that. I was in a store the other day and they told me they couldn't take cash. They came up with some lame excuse about COVID. But you know what? I was an NBC guy and I'm going to tell you right now, it don't transfer that way. So, they wouldn't take cash. Is a credit card only. Well, that credit card only gets them fees that they have to pay. So what do? They raise their prices again, right? Credit card companies love this because that just makes a higher fee for them, right? See, these cats know what they're doing when they set this up. And there was a campaign. I don't know if you remember it, but there was a literal campaign. And it went on the TV. It went on the news networks. It went on print ads. It went on the radio waves. It went everywhere. And there was a whole campaign that the big banks and the big credit card companies put out that ran for like a year long. Back in 2008, 2009, something like that. Talking about how you needed to start using bank cards and stop using cash. Because they know through marketing analytics that when you pull out that little tiny card, you're willing to spend more on it than you are with cash money in your pocket. So maybe you've got 50, 60, 80 bucks in your pocket. You know what I mean? And you might be willing to spend half of that because you want to keep some in case you need to do something else later, right? However, you pull out a little card from your pocket, little piece of plastic, and you'll drop $100 on a dinner. Boom. Yeah, you don't care. You're willing to do it. And they knew that. So what did they do? They put out this huge campaign. They said, hey, stop using your cash. Cash is dead. Use your card. You know? And that's what they did. It's a funny world that we live in, you know. And that's leadership though, right? They took the lead and they put the risk out there. And they made it happen. And they convinced the world that their way was better. And the economy jumped up because of it. Everything has moved forward because of it. Right? We got more money than we know what to do with because of it. But they're still making a lot more money than they used to because of your change in your habit that they trained you to do. So I'm trying to do the opposite. I'm trying to get back to cash because there was a time when I always had at least, $1,000 in my pocket, a minimum of $700, and things changed along the way, But I'm trying to get back to that. So it kind of annoys me when nobody wants to take cash anymore. I was like, well, what's wrong with money? Anyway, folks, hey, this has been fun. And I am Chris Miller, reminding you to always keep smiling. Listen, if you are going to go to theleadertree.com and sign up for our podcast news alerts, that would be awesome. We'd love to have you. Leave a comment. Tell us if $38 is worth your time. And go check out the challenge at unchainedchallenge.com and check it out 5 days. You'll be helping some people get some food in their bellies, and it's a worthy cause. And you might learn something too about how to unchain your income for the near future ahead. All right? Have yourselves a fantastic evening. I'm Chris Miller, reminding you to always keep smiling. Bye-bye.